You're very busy. Okay, should we get going? David, you happy for me to kick off?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our live coaching session. It's always a privilege to pause in the busyness of our work and create space for coaching. Coaching gives us the chance to reflect, challenge our thinking, and build new ways of leading ourselves and others. So I thought before we get going, maybe you can take a minute just to reflect yourself and pop in the chat. So why did you join the session, and tell us, have you ever had coaching yourself? I'm going to give you a minute to do that. What made you sign up, and have you ever had coaching yourself? Okay, let's see if we've got some answers there. People still busy typing. So while that's going on, let me go ahead and introduce our amazing guests. We're really fortunate to have with us two remarkable professionals. I'll start off by introducing the coach of the moment, which is Pamela Ziman. Pamela is an accredited master coach, attorney of the Supreme Court of South Africa, HBCSA registered counselor, and a master's in psychology and an LLB degree. Pam has over 2,000 coaching hours and extensive experience working with executives and senior managers. And Omnicor is honored to have Pam as a resident coach on our coaching panel and friend. Elaine Hewson is the coachee of the moment and is an industrial psychologist who brings deep expertise in assessments and organizational development. And again, Omnicor is honored to have Elaine as a lead consultant in the OD space. So to go over the format for today, Pam will kick us off with a brief overview, just a bit of an intro into coaching, a little taster. And then we're going to go into the live coaching session for about 30 minutes. And then we'll still have time to quiz Pam and Elaine with your questions and reflect on the experience. Please feel free to drop your comments and your questions in the chat. I will be monitoring it throughout the session and seeing if we can bring those into the final closeout. Just for your own knowledge, we are recording the session, so you will be able to get it afterwards, but just so that you're aware. Now, when we set up the session, it was really important to Pam that this was authentic coaching session. So none of this is rehearsed. What's going to happen is what's going to happen. And we are privileged to be part to watch this and observe a live coaching session. It's not often you get this opportunity. So a big shout out to Pam and to Elaine, who are so courageous in taking on this gig. We really appreciate it. And then maybe I'm just going to go back and review quickly before we start, Pam, if you don't mind. Let's see what people are saying. Interested in workplace counseling, mediation and coaching, and would like to learn more. Never been coached. Expected to coach employees. Yes, coaching received, but not always necessarily effective. That's a very good comment from Renelle. Have always been interested in coaching, so I thought it would be awesome to see a live demonstration. And actually, Keegan, you have had coaching. So many comments over there. We'll refer to them a little bit later, but enjoy the session, and I'm going to hand over to Pam.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you for that introduction. And just to say a few words about coaching, I find that it's useful to think about coaching in terms of 4 core aspects. So firstly, coaching is goal-orientated. It is focused on identifying, clarifying, and reaching personal and professional objectives. It is growth-focused. It's aimed at enhancing skills, enhancing mindset, and enhancing self-awareness and potential. It's a collaborative process. Coaching is a partnership where the coach uses powerful and incisive questions, reflections, and challenges so that the coachee can find their own answers. It is action-based. It involves creating concrete action steps and action plans and accountability and learning through practice. Coaching is aligned to and often thought of as similar to therapy or mentoring or consulting, but there are very important differences between coaching and these other processes. So therapy, which is the one thing that I always get asked, what is the difference? Is it similar? Is it, and of course, I mean, there's an alignment because you're dealing with people and the underpinnings of personal behavior and of psychology are very useful for coaching, but there are real important differences. So therapy focuses on the past and the present, whereas coaching focuses on the present and the future. Therapists use psychological techniques to help clients heal from past trauma, emotional wounds, and mental health challenges. Psychologists and therapists are licensed professionals trained to diagnose and treat mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, or trauma. Whereas the role of the coach is very different. The coach acts as a facilitator, a partner, and a challenger, and uses questions, reflections, challenges, and accountability to help the client find their own answers. Mentoring is also very different from coaching because the mentor shares personal experience, advice, and wisdom in a specific field or career. It's much more of a, let me show you, let me advise you, let me tell you, and it's related to a specific field. Consulting has a totally different focus and approach. The consultant is a subject matter expert who analyzes the issue, gives expert recommendations, and sometimes implements solutions. So with that brief background and understanding of the core concepts of coaching, I think that we are ready to start our live coaching session. And I welcome Elaine to come and be the coachee.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Elaine. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yes, I'm well. Thank you. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been, yeah, quite a productive, busy one, but yeah, very good. Getting through lots.
Always busy. Always busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Elaine, what do you want to focus on today?
So Pam, I think something that has been on my mind that I'd like some coaching on is just in terms of setting boundaries. And, I think in general, how to maintain my boundaries when I'm feeling pressure to say yes. And that could be from, I think I have high expectations of myself, but also, externally, maybe a client has a demand, maybe internally the team needs me for something. And how do I maintain those boundaries and still get done what I need to get done realistically?
Okay. So, Elaine, can I ask you, what does the word boundary mean to you?
I think a boundary for me is it's essentially being able to say no when I need to. I suppose also knowing what I have capacity for and what I don't, and then being able to communicate that.
So it is being able to say that two-letter word, understanding when, and then being able to communicate it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
can I ask you, what emotions come up for you when you think about saying no or setting a limit?
Yeah, I suppose a bit of anxiety, if I have to be honest. It's not in my nature to kind of disappoint, or I feel like I might be disappointing someone. So I suppose there's that feeling of a little bit of guilt or a bit of anxiety. I'm going to be letting someone down if I do put that boundary in place. It does depend on what it is, though. So, yeah, but I think those are the first things that come to mind.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you want to achieve from our session today?
Hmm. I think just practical coping strategies, actual, what can I do in the moment? Let's say I've already planned out my day and I've got a lot on my plate already, and then something comes up which is obviously urgent. It's, the person isn't making it up, or I didn't come up with or, whatever the problem is, it needs to be dealt with. How do I then practically cope with that without taking on more than I can handle and maybe making unrealistic promises?
Okay. Okay. So is it correct to say that your coaching goal would be to find practical coping strategies to deal with unplanned problems that arise during the day? Yeah?
Exactly. And it can be
Okay.
I think it can be on a daily basis, something that has to be dealt with on a certain day, or it can be even longer term, like my week is packed and someone has a request for me and now I'm just feeling, oh, I really don't have capacity for this, but it's fine. I'll make a plan. But really, I shouldn't be saying yes to those things.
So where's your biggest challenge with setting boundaries?
Hmm. That is a very difficult question. So okay, I think that what is difficult is, I think in my role, and perhaps a lot of people can relate to this, is that there's not just one hat. There are multiple things that I'm kind of high level responsible for, and I can't really put down those hats just because my day looks full already. So there might be an element of managing people. There might be an element of clients, relationships and communication. There might be an element of project management and getting things done on time. There's also task execution and just things that have to run according to deadlines. So I think it's the multiple responsibilities, multiple hats, and potentially not knowing how to prioritize those when, like I said, when something urgent comes up.
So currently at the moment, when something urgent comes up, what do you do?
Um, I would probably see if it is something that someone else can help me with. So if it's something that I can explain to someone else and it fits in their wheelhouse, I would do that. I kind of weigh up, how delayed is this already? How much time do I realistically have to get this done? And then at some point, I would make a call as to whether I do that work, that urgent thing that has come up, whether it's something that I can delegate to someone, or whether it's just at the point where if I delay any further, it's just going to be a problem, and then it'll go onto my plate. So there's a bit of a weighing up process that happens.
And how much of the time are you actually relaxing that boundary and taking on extra work? And how much of the time are you putting up the boundary?
I'm probably relaxing the boundary more often than not. So if I had to give you a percentage, I mean, probably like 70 to 80% of the time, I'm probably relaxing the boundary.
Okay. Elaine, what past experiences do you think shape the way that you approach boundaries now?
Mm. So, I think mixed. There have been times in my life where, and in the workplace especially, I think I'm generally seen as someone quite reliable. So if there's a problem, it's okay. Elaine can help with that. And, I think that that's generally how people see me. It's probably also how I want to be perceived in some way. And so often I think I would put in extra effort, and I probably take a bit of pride in that I'll go the extra mile to get it done. So that's probably more from my early years in my profession and,
Yes.
establishing myself. Later down the line, there were times where I had to put up firmer boundaries, and I had things going on in my own life that I just said, well, I'm kind of not willing to compromise that, I suppose, and especially with time. So when it came to like around the time I was getting married, for example, they were just hard limits in terms of my time that I said I need to, spend this on something else. Having kids, there were some more hard limits there. So I think that underlying want to be helpful is definitely still there, but now there's more factors at play and a lot more that I have to balance in my life.
Yeah. So it's a perception that has been created, but that you have wanted to create, that you are the person that people can depend on. You're the go-to person, and you're
Yeah.
reliable.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But you've said that there have been times where you have been able to relax those boundaries.
To kind of to be more strict with the boundaries or
Yes, to relax
yeah.
them in your favor. So you've been able to
Oh, right.
say, yes, I'm going to prioritize other things.
Yeah.
When has it been easier to do that?
So I think in roles where my scope was quite defined. So, I mean, I'm just thinking back to kind of an advisory role that I played at one stage, and without getting into too much detail about it, but it was a very defined scope in terms of I was responsible for dealing with sort of ad hoc requests that came up during the day, but at clock off time, it was clock off time, essentially. There weren't these like long-term client projects that I was dealing with. There were other times when I was working on projects, let's say, but it was more in an independent consultant capacity. And I could also just say, well, that's as much as I can take on, and that's as much as I can take on. So I think that, I suppose that does play into it, is how defined the scope and is. And like I said, currently I'm wearing lots of hats. And so the scope kind of, it can tend to creep out a little bit. And I think just the nature of what we're doing, we're very busy, we've got lots going on all the time. And so you don't want to let any of those people down, or I don't want to, let me say, let any of those people down who might be affected by me just saying there's a hard stop and I can't help you.
Yeah. What's the cost to you of not saying there's a hard stop?
I think just my energy, things like, sometimes overtime, or not having, just not having time for the other things in my life, essentially. So it's a time and energy cost.
What are the other things in your life that don't get time devoted to them?
Probably a lot of the practical things. Admin, personal admin, sleep would be one. I mean, that sounds like, really just like little things, but just like being able to like go and kind of cook dinner and that type of thing. But also, I mean, just in a work capacity, often it's the things that are important but not urgent that get kind of shifted out because you're always dealing with the urgent things that are coming up.
What's the impact of that for you?
I think that the day-to-day things run very smoothly, and the impact on me for the long-term things getting pushed out is, I mean, often we'll just think we have certain ways we want to improve, right? Like a lot of innovation or a lot of um, new ways of doing things. And we really want to be spending the time on that. And I really want to be spending the time on it. But sometimes with the day-to-day things, it becomes hard to dedicate time to that.
It's difficult because you are juggling a lot of balls. There's a lot of balls in the air. So it's not an easy situation. And you've also got, combined with that, you've got your view of yourself and people's perception of you are that you are the go-to person. You're dependable, you're reliable, Elaine will do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah, so it's a tricky one because, you know, I think at the same time I want to be seen as reliable, and obviously I want to get my work done and have, you know, these high standards. I feel like I am someone who has high standards for work. And at the same time, I somehow want to have boundaries and have, you know, balance. And that's something that I'm constantly trying to get right, I suppose, is the balance.
if you did have balance and if you had strong, healthy boundaries, what would be different in your life?
I think if I had balance and boundaries in my life, um, I think that my habits would be different in the sense that, and it's something that's actually something we talk about a lot in our team, but you know, it's so important to have those healthy habits in place just for your own wellness. And I think I know it in theory, but I often forget it. And I just think, at least if I can just do this today, I won't have to worry about it tomorrow. But it becomes a pattern. And I think a more healthy pattern would be something where I do have better time cutoffs for myself in the day and say, okay, you know, if I need to do a little bit extra, that's fine, but it'll be, you know, an hour here or there, or it'll be the exception. And, you know, and then from this time on, I'm going to do other things. So I think my time boundaries would maybe be a bit better, a bit healthier. Um, and yeah, I think I'd hopefully feel a bit more, I think there would also be, let's say, more space in my day for the things that look like our long-term goals and our innovation. It would feel less kind of jam-packed, rushing from one thing to the next, because I would have better buffers and yeah, just a little bit more time built into my day. And I think it's an intentional thing. I don't think it happens by accident, but it's just these bad habits that tend to creep in just in the name of, at least, you know, I'll get through a little bit and I'll cope with this now so I don't have to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I don't know how healthy that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like what's happening right now is that you don't have space for really any strategic thinking. It's more operational. And you also don't have a lot of space for wellness.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
What does wellness mean to you?
I think right now, wellness to me would look like a little bit of personal time. And um, so things like I said, it's making space, but it's things like making space for exercise. And so, I mean, I do have, I mean, there's kind of exercise that I love to do. And I sometimes kind of just lose that habit, I think, or things get really busy. So I just say, okay, well, that's going out the window for now. Getting outside, um, you know, having time in my day to just reflect, And, whatever that looks like. I think it can, sometimes for me, it looks like journaling or just speaking to someone, debriefing about the day, but just having those pause moments and more time for myself.
And if you were able to set stronger, healthier boundaries, you would have more of these.
I think so.
What do you fear might happen if you did set a boundary?
I thought you might ask that. I think there is sort of a fear of, like I said, will I let someone down? Would I even let myself down in terms of my own high standards? It's not on other people as much as it is on me, I think. And yeah, I think just with, kind of a busy environment, I think I have a little bit of a fear of, if I don't make sure that I'm on top of it at every moment, that, the dominoes are going to come tumbling down, and, it's all going to go horribly wrong, which is probably a bit of an over exaggeration. But I think that to some extent, just keeping an eye on something continuously, it kind of gives me the sense of security. But it does take then a lot of time. But and like I said, I think it's kind of one of those things like, let me just do it. Let me just keep my eye on it, or let me do it quickly so that I know it's under control. So the anxiety or the fear is, if I don't do it, it won't be under control.
Yeah. You want to maintain control and maintain order, and you don't want what you believe would be chaos if you didn't.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, what you've said is your goal is to find practical coping strategies to deal with unplanned problems that arise, so that there can be maybe more order, more wellness in your life. And there's a bit of a conflict there as to in which situation do you have more control.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think I can feel very in control from a work perspective, but then the rest of my life is completely chaotic. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. It's the boundaries need to be there so that everything can be in balance. And I'm not feeling like one element of my life is chaotic, but another is in control.
So I think what you're struggling with is how to create balance and homeostasis and order in all areas of your life. But what's actually happening right now is that in the work area of your life, you taking control, and you are not putting in boundaries so that you don't let anyone down. But in actual fact, it's creating a lot of chaos in your personal life.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's where my goal comes in, from a work perspective, to not get sucked into the little urgent things that come up, it's giving me control, but I'm not getting to my more longer term strategic things. But also just from my, in a life perspective, I suppose from a holistic point of view, how do I suppose it's in a case like let go a little bit. Like how can I practically do this where I do have a lot on my plate, and I want to be able to give attention to all of those things, but there also needs to be space for, other parts of my life.
Yeah. So what options are available to you?
So like I said, I think the one is ask for help and see where other people can step in. delegation to some extent. Possibly some other options are just seeing if anything I'm doing is kind of doing it the long way around. A lot of what we're talking about is how can we automate what we do, and how can we simplify some of those more tedious tasks, like AI and automation, and all of that is getting so big now. So I think some of those are things I can look into. Perhaps it is also just pausing at some point and really thinking, can I actually take this on? Like, is this something that I can realistically fit in when it isn't part of my core duty or my core responsibility?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's already a few strategies that you've thought of. And it's
I mean, not that I've really thought of it. It's just coming out now.
well, you've generated a few options.
Yeah.
Asking for help, delegating, seeing if things can be automated, pausing and questioning, can I really take this on?
Yeah, and maybe even just building in more buffers into my day. So I think, yeah, I mean, I was probably better at this at some stage. Again, it's like a bad habit, but just building in some thinking time, some time for the more strategic tasks. Actually setting that time aside ahead of time, because otherwise you get to Friday and you look ahead at your week and it's completely packed and there's just no room there. And then when those urgent things come up, sometimes you just think, how am I going to fit this in? It's not that you can avoid. I can't say, "Oh, well, those urgent things aren't going to come up." They are, but there's just no space. So perhaps it's just thinking a bit ahead of time, planning a bit more in advance, putting some time in my diary for those thinking tasks.
So when you say building in buffers, does that mean planning like a week before and creating space where you're blocked off? What does it actually mean? Yeah, that's what
Yeah, exactly. And I do that a week ahead, but I think I need to maybe do it more than a week ahead, just considering how booked things get. So, yeah, because I mean, we'll always, I think the whole team does this actually, but we'll plan out our week. The week before, the next week is already planned out and we have a very clear idea. But I think what I'm guilty of is not always looking at the following week and not adding in those buffer times, those literal, like booking in a meeting for myself, me with me. I'm not doing that, so that when I get to planning my week, that there's already no space.
Yeah, you've literally got no time for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that could be maybe just something practically to help put those buffer times in 2 weeks ahead already, or 3 weeks ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. If I asked you this on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is terrible and 10 is excellent, where would you put yourself on this dimension in terms of how do you manage to put in healthy boundaries and coping strategies to deal with unplanned problems?
Look, I don't think it's terrible and I don't think it's great. It's probably somewhere in the middle. So not to hedge, but probably like a 5, because I am doing a lot of planning. I am delegating where I can. There are things that I'm trying to do already.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes it still feels a little bit,
Yeah.
there's just no space for these last minute things that come up. So yeah, I think it's not going too badly, but I could definitely
It's
get
not
better
bad.
at it.
Not
Yeah.
bad at all. Okay, so in order to move it just from a 5 to a 6, of all the options you've generated, what do you think you can commit to doing until we meet next time?
So definitely the putting actual time buffers in my diary 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead. I think that I can do very easily. I think, I mean, the one thing that I always try to do is look at my tasks and think, is this something that I need to do? Is this something that someone else can help me with? Or is this something that I can automate? But perhaps if I actually build in a little bit more time and not just 15 minutes a day looking, okay, I'm going to plan my day tomorrow, but maybe a little bit more time, maybe I can actually give that a bit more thought and delegate, ask for help, and think ahead a bit more effectively.
Yeah. How would you hold yourself accountable to this?
That's a good question. I could probably ask a colleague or my HOD to check in on me because I think I know myself, I'll do it quite well for the first couple of weeks and then I might fall back into bad habits. So maybe just setting up like a check-in with someone in the team later down the line in a couple of weeks just to say, are you still doing this? And do you maybe need to go in your diary right now and book out some buffer times already?
Yeah. Okay, so just to check in that we have actually looked at the coaching goal that we started with. Do you think that you have some practical coping strategies that you can do and that you can use to deal with unplanned problems that arise?
I think I do. Yeah. What I'd probably want to look at more is, I suppose, so when I've put those buffers in place or I've set this is my end of day, and then someone comes with a request and says, I need this time. And I'm feeling this pressure to say, of course, I can help you.
Yes.
I think that, and maybe that's a next session thing, but how do I then in that moment say, or just, work this out in my own head and communicate to the other person, no, I've really set aside this time for something important and not to over explain it, but just to maintain that boundary that I've set, because I think that might be quite difficult for me.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that relates more to that deep level, which we were speaking about, where the perception that you have aided and that is real, and that you've aided and abetted in creating, is that you are this reliable, dependable person. And that there's the idea in you is that this will give you maximum control. But
Exactly.
The unintended consequence is that it is creating chaos in other aspects of your life.
Yeah, no, you're very right. It's like a false sense of control in a way, making things less controlled. Yeah, but I think I do have some practical strategies that I can really implement right now, which is helpful, and some things to think about too.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah, and that thinking is part of it. The thinking on a deeper level is part of the coaching process. Yeah.
I'm sure. I think I have homework.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not doing, it's thinking.
Yes, exactly. I'll set aside some time.
Brilliant. Good. Excellent. Thanks so much, Elaine.
Thank you, Pam. That was really helpful.
Very welcome.
Well done. We've already booked the time in your diary for thinking and for buffer time. No, joking.
It's done.
Okay, just before we jump in, and please do put your questions and comments in the chat. Elaine, I'm just curious to know, how was that for you? Pam doesn't, just what did it feel like having the coaching?
It's hard because there's a lot of thinking work involved, and it's not someone telling you what to do. It's someone really helping you to think through the problem for yourself and figure out what you can do differently. So I suppose it's hard, it's challenging, it's also really, really helpful. None of this was a staged thing. I mean, I'm trying to bring something authentic. And yeah, I mean, I really do think like I have practical strategies, so it was incredibly useful.
Good.
Great. Elaine, which question stood out that just like was just, oh, wow. What was that one question for you that got your attention?
There was one, and now I can't think what it was. I think one of them was what are the options available to you? That was like, okay, I really have to think about that one. There was another one which was like, which experiences shaped, this perception. I mean, you're kind of having to think back into your past, and you think, oh, how far back should I go? But yeah, so I think a lot of those very deeper reflection questions and the ones that make you think of options are quite difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pam, some very powerful questions. I'm sure some of the coaches in the room, Joe and Neville, I see you there making notes. I loved how you said to Elaine, well, what does a boundary mean boundary mean to you? And I could see she was like, oh, yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know. What does it mean?
We just throw around this word. I need to set boundaries. I need to set, but what does it actually mean? So, Pam, how was the session for you?
Yeah, it was so lovely. It was great working with Elaine, and it was, what was really nice is that Elaine is such a reflective person and deep and likes to think and likes to reflect. So that was fantastic. And also, I think, that Elaine and I literally met for 10 minutes, and I said the only thing that I would say is please bring something authentic. And I could really feel that this was real, authentic, genuine. And that was lovely.
Elaine, was this one of the things you should have said no to? Okay, no, wait, that's too soon. Let's go to the questions over here. What do we do if the coachee doesn't have all the answers? From Keegan. Nice one. Pam, these are for you to answer, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, the coachee can't and shouldn't and doesn't have to, and there's nothing is prescribed. It's really just that the coach is a thinking partner. So it is honestly just, that's a good thing, because it means that the coachee now has to think. It's a good thing if they don't have the answers. It allows them to think and reflect and have some deeper learning.
And then Celia says, what does the coach do with uncomfortable silences? I have a tendency to want to fill in with any type of talk. I love that.
Yeah. So I think that silence is important, because it really allows thinking. It allows your client to think and not to have to be rushed. So I think that there's definitely a place for it, and it's really important. But I do think that if it starts to feel too uncomfortable, that's not what you want to do. You're not trying to create a situation where there's a real feeling of unpleasantness or discomfort. So after a bit of time, you then step in and offer a reflection or maybe another question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, for all those that coach in the room, how often that happens, because generally the art is trying to get into the conversation. There's often not silence. But great question. And then from Neville, thank you, Elaine and Pam, for this masterful session. And then Tanusha, when you put yourself out, when you put yourself out, you become the go-to person. This does impact your core function. How would you manage this? Very nice. You putting yourself out there as being like, hi, I'm Elaine, I've got this all in control, and I'm your go-to person. And as a side effect of that, the message that you're giving people is come hither.
Yeah, that's a great coaching question.
It is.
Yeah.
Hilton, unless David can unmic you, I think you're muted. David, can you unmute Hilton? What would your response be to that, Pam?
Yeah, I think it's a great coaching question, because it's saying that, it's part of what Elaine is doing is she's putting herself out there. and there's reasons for that. But what's the cost?
Hilton, do you want to ask your question? Do you have? Yes, go for it.
Thanks for unmuting me. So first of all, just to say congratulations to Pam and Elaine. It's one thing to do coaching in a closed room where no one can see what's going on, and it's another thing to do a very public display of a rare skill. So, just to say, well done to both of you, and particularly Pam, because coaches are very critical of each other's work. And here Pam put herself on the line, and, we're all looking at how we would have done it. And Pam, I can say that was like a beautiful session. It was so measured. You seemed so calm and confident, and all the questions you asked, I was about to ask a second before you asked them. So I mean, I know they were brilliant questions. So I just wanted to say well done. I think it was a master class, and took real bravery to do it. So just thanks so much for letting us all be part of it. And thanks, Elaine, for putting yourself out there. And we'll bill you later. Thank you.
I mean,
I'm sure.
Okay, and then we've got a question from Celia. I'm also now busy with someone where I cannot see how we can go forward anymore. The person is incredibly negative and disengaged at work due to her own styles that clashes with others. We are not focusing on competencies or strengths anymore. She's very sad and depressed. Do I stop the sessions? She does, however, keep on scheduling them with me because she really does value it. We have covered all the good topics about talents, EQ, competency. So I think Celia's asking a supervision question there around at what point does coaching is it not the effective way forward, I think is what Celia's asking.
Yeah. Look, I think that it's a long question, but it really is coaching still adding value? And if so, what's the value? But having said that, being really careful that if you do need to refer, so if there's sadness, anxiety, and depression, that you don't step into the role of a psychologist or therapist. So be careful of boundaries, and be careful of not stepping into a different role. But if the coaching is still adding value, and it might be a conversation that's worth having, you're saying, like, what value are you receiving from this process?
Good one. And I think Joe's also added, Joe is a supervisor, that it's a very important question for supervision, Celia. So it would be good to take that up with a supervisor. Great. Any other questions before we wrap up so that Elaine can have some time to herself? You'll get 10 minutes and that's it.
I'll value it. I think Neville had a question there, Colleen, just above Celia's question.
Really? Did I miss it? Neville, I'm interested that Pam described coaching as more present than future-based, and yet one of the questions that really struck Elaine was, where does this need to not let herself and others down? In a more normal session, might you have explored this further? So the past, way of forming where she's at in the present.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that the pertinent word there is focus. The focus is definitely on the present and on the future. But of course, I mean, we're all products of our past, and it's really important to see what's informing the way we think, what our beliefs are, the way we act. And so absolutely, coaching definitely takes account of past experiences, past behaviors, because you can't separate a person from their history. But I think it's just a question of focus, where I think that therapy is definitely more focused on delving into the past.
Thanks, Neville. So you ran for about 35, 40 minutes, not even a full hour of coaching. And I think that's pretty good for that amount of time. Elaine, just to say that the question you raised was just so pertinent and #relate. And I think for a lot of people in the room, it's a struggle. It's not just you. I think it's sign of just an emblem of where we at as consultants at the time of the year, the phase of your life, and we see you, we understand, and I'm really grateful that we had this opportunity to learn from you. Actually, I feel like I made a lot of notes as well. Great. Any last final things that maybe I missed? Oh, Hilton. Oh, what? As a coach, how much are you a human being connecting with someone, and how much is applying a technique? Which are you most conscious of, Pam?
First one.
Oh, human being.
Human being.
Definitely. But you do expertly weave in your technique without even anyone noticing. You do this kung fu. David, how do you identify the priority of what you need coaching on as a leader? 360 question mark?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that is the question saying, I mean, that's really the question for the client. So that's what you need to do in the first maybe 15 minutes of the coaching session. If it's an hour, is to find out what's top of mind. What does the client want to focus on? And because it's a goal-directed process, you want to know for each session, like for this session, what do you want to achieve when you walk out that door? And how would you know it was successful? So it gives you a compass and it narrows down where you want the conversation to go. But it's definitely client directed, it comes totally from the client.
And also in the typical sense, you'd have 6 sessions or 7 sessions to work on this. And I'm just thinking it would be interesting if Elaine did a 360. Herbert, wherever you are, set that up. No, I'm joking.
Oh my word.
Probably what would happen, and Hilton can also weigh in here, what would happen is you would get a brilliant 360, but what you're looking for is the internal 360. Because a lot of what you do is fix and help everyone else. And what you said is, and I think Pam really underscored that beautifully by saying, where is time for self? So if you did your own 360, you may score yourself low on some things. Great.
You'd have that discrepancy, and that would give you the information of what you need to work on.
Yes, yes. Okay, I think that's a wrap. It was so amazing. Thank you so much, Pam and Elaine. And thank you, David, for all your expert work in getting everyone in the room. And we look forward to the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.